Good evening, parents and guardians. We will be beginning the RLCP Regional Learning Choices Programs information session hosted by the We Rise Together Community Advisory Council in the next couple of minutes. Thank you. Good evening, parents, guardians, hopefully some students as well. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening for our information session regarding the Regional Learning Choices programs, or RLCP programs, for the Peel District School Board tonight. My name is Greg Pearson. I'm going to be the moderator in the background today, running the changes between slides and cameras and everything like that as well. And I'm a coordinating principal with responsibilities for the RLCP programming. I am just going to turn the presentation off for shortly, just so I can introduce myself properly to our attendees tonight and this evening. So I have a very wide range of experience working with RLCP programs, so some interesting perspectives for attendees tonight that I can share. When I was in the classroom as a teacher, I worked at an RLCP school, so I can see and understand the interaction and how it works as a staff member. When I became a principal, I was at Applewood Heights Secondary School, so we had the regional sports and leadership program there. So as a school principal, I can see the interaction and everything that happens at that level. And of course, I also have the coordinating principal responsibility. So I've learned so much over the last year and how RLCP works and the different programs that exist throughout the board. On top of that, I'm a father of 3 children. My oldest daughter, who's just gone off to university, was considering RLCP programming, and in the end we decided that she just wanted to go to her home school. My other 2 children, who are 17 and 14, are actually RLCP students in the Strings program at Port Credit. So I have a parent perspective as well, and of course I hear from my 2 children all the time. Full disclosure, I'm not in a fancy office as my background would indicate. I'm in my home office tonight. There could be some pandemonium at some points. I do have 2 dogs and we're expecting a visitor, a piano lesson. So if my dogs start barking, I do apologize for the interruption. I cannot avoid that at this point in time. I'm going to switch back as we begin some information sharing with you. First is our land acknowledgement. And as this is Treaty Recognition Week, we must understand the role that treaties play in our lives and relationships with each other today as we move forward together to advance reconciliation. By building understanding, we are advancing reconciliation with Indigenous people to help create equitable and respectful relationships. This evening, we start by acknowledging that we are on traditional territories of Treaty 13A, 14, 19 of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We are grateful to the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation as the caretakers of this land and recognize the benefits we receive from this land. This land continues to be home for First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples, many who are students in Peelschools. We thank them and other Indigenous people who have walked before us and share the land with us. Some housekeeping or administrative items for this evening. One thing, you are invited to ask questions in the top right-hand corner of your screen in the Teams live event. You should see an icon similar to where the green circle is on the screen or my cursor is moving. That is the Q&A feature on Microsoft Teams. I have a colleague, another coordinating principal, Lanu Aurora, who would be managing the chat functionality today and posting items to the shared or public avenue for participants. In the event of any technological difficulties or if we happen to get disconnected, we will generate a new meeting link or instructions that will be posted on all Peel District School Board social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We will hopefully have that resolved in as little or as few as 10 minutes. We are recording this information session and we will share it publicly on the RLCP website as well for reference for others who weren't able to make it this evening. It's something similar we've been doing with our information nights at our schools as well. Thank you very much. I would like to take the moment to introduce Danielle Dowdy, who's been working in the planning of this event as a parent representative on the We Rise Together Community Advisory Council to bring opening remarks for us this evening. As busy as I am, I know Danielle is equally as busy, and she is joining us with camera on. So 1 second, please. 1 second, sending live, Danielle, away you go.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm a parent representative with the We Rise Together Community Advisory Council. We are a group of parents and community members who are really focused on Black student success and addressing issues of disparity and participating, working closely with the administration on how we can address some of the issues that we all know exist. So this evening we know that the Regional Learning Choices program has traditionally been underrepresented by Black students, and so in working with the administration, we wanted to make sure that the information on the program was out there and that any parents that had any questions, this is your chance to hear about the programs as well as understand how to apply, what it's about, and really just get the information out there. So we thank you all for joining us this evening. We welcome you, we welcome your questions, and thank you.
Thank you ever so much, Danielle. And I have to say, in our brief meetings together, your perspectives and input have been valued in making sure we keep a wide open lens, and that we also include our Indigenous, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people in our efforts even more so at the same time. So thank you very much for that information tonight and for the introduction. Just as a pause before we bring greetings from the board, we do welcome everyone here tonight to take note of the We Rise Together website at werisetogether.ca. And if you have any questions, you can always email the We Rise Together Parent Advisory Council at the plsb.com address that we have listed. And they also have a Twitter account that you can access. Further to that, I will be posting a link shortly that that goes to the We Rise Together Community Advisory Council distribution list that you can sign up for to get. Oh, my apologies. I am not showing the presentation. So Danielle, my apologies. It was still you. Didn't send over. I missed the button as I was talking. So my humblest of apologies there. I'm going to go back one slide. WeRiseTogether.ca website for updates, information that's coming, along with the We Rise parent email address and the Twitter account. And if you would like to become more informed or get on the email distribution list for We Rise, we do have a form that I'll be posting in the chat shortly that you can use and access to get signed up. So thank you very much for that. At this point, I'd like to bring some greetings from the board. I'd like to welcome our Associate Director, Instruction and Equity School Support with Peel District School Board, Shirley Ann Teal. Shirley Ann, just give me 1 second. And your camera is live, Shirley Ann.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you all for coming and joining us tonight. On behalf of our Director Swarup, and our Executive Superintendent, Liz Cook, who is the leader for the Regional Learning Choices Program, I welcome you all here tonight, and I am so pleased to be able to bring greetings from the board. The Peel District School Board is committed to equity and inclusion for all, which includes examining programs, policies, and processes through an anti-racism and anti-oppression lens. When we speak about striving to achieve equity and inclusion, it means that sometimes we have to take a different approach for different groups. During our last school year, as Danielle had said, based on some data that we were able to understand, we found it that in order to address the historically and the statistically significant disproportionalities in enrollment and equitable representation of the Peel District School Board African, Black, Afro-Caribbean, First Nations, Inuit, and Métis students in the Regional Learning Choices programs, the Peel District School Board introduced a new self-identification process as part of the application form. As such, all African, Black, Afro-Caribbean, First Nations, Inuit, and Métis students who self-identified on the application form and who met the criteria for admission were accepted into the program without going through the randomized selection process. That process was much discussed by many people in the board, outside of the board, but it was absolutely the right thing to do. There were improvements in representation for self-identified students in the Regional Learning Choices programs, but we have still identified a need for continued improvement in both our application numbers and the acceptance numbers for students who identify in the categories, as I mentioned, African, Black, Afro-Caribbean, First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. And that is why Peel District School Board will continue the self-identification process for this coming school year as well. And we will be examining it very closely in subsequent school years before we make any changes. Continuing to address the disparity and disproportionality in the participation of these students in the Regional Learning Choices programs is a necessary action. This direction is supported by the special programs provision under the Human Rights Code. Special programs should be designed to help people who experience hardship, discrimination, racism, inequality, and who have been historically disadvantaged. The Ontario Human Rights Commission encourages the development and use of special programs as an effective approach and strategy to address and mitigate system racism. As I mentioned, this continues to be a necessary step to address system inequities that exist for African, Black, Caribbean, First Nations, Inuit, and Métis students in the Regional Learning Choices programs. Can't just live our mission to inspire success, confidence, and hope in each student until we take the real and meaningful steps to provide greater access to those historically and currently excluded and marginalized. With the second year of self-identification process, we continue to address the historically and statistically significant disproportionality in our programs, and we're working to ensure marginalized students have access to the programs. This is very important to us. This is something that we are not shying away from, and we will continue to be committed to. So I'm so pleased to see this event tonight, and I hope that both students and parents and families are all paying close attention and will be all ready to fill out your application forms after. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you very much, Shirley Ann. I'm just checking. I'm noticing in our meeting chat that there's some people that cannot hear me. If that's still the case, if they could also respond in the chat again if they still cannot hear me. Thank you very much. The agenda for this evening, we've already completed item number 1. We've gone through our introductions from Danielle, greetings from the board with Shirley Ann. We'll go through a review of our communications plan, what we've been able to accomplish in reaching out so far in this coming school year. We'll look at an overview of our LCP secondary. Spread throughout, we have 2 student voices where parents and students who are listening this evening will get a chance to hear from a current grade 11 student, and you will also get the opportunity to hear from a previous student, a graduate who's now at university. We'll give some details regarding the application process, the website, what it looks like, financial supports that are available with application fees and school program fees. We'll review the self-identification process, and then we're going to be able to turn over the floor and be able to have questions from you where I'll respond to things we haven't been able to address in the Q&A. So thank you very much. Our communications plan that we've been working on to ensure that we are able to get the word out so that students are aware of the opportunities that are available for them. We have been hosting spotlight days in grade 8 and grade 7 and some grade 7 classes this year. On the same day of parent information nights at the individual schools, grade 8 especially teachers have been showing brief videos to students so they're aware of the opportunities that exist with Regional Learning Choices programs. So that's been going since our information started in October. We have been contacting families as much as we possibly can. Sometimes as a parent and getting emails from Peel, I can see all the RLCP information that's coming. There's been emails, social media posts, banners on the peelschools.org website. That way as well. We've made contact repeatedly with elementary principals and vice principals, ensuring that they're aware of what happens and information that they can present to students and families. We've been in contact with our teachers that are in the system. Office staff are aware of information that they are able to put up the announcements about application deadlines and timelines and so on and so forth. The grade 8 guidance counselors have been pivotal in sharing and passing along information where we are working with staff to deliver that. Superintendents of education are discussing our LCP at their family of schools meetings. Very excited for some of the work that we began doing with our Indigenous educators, and we're actually attending an event tomorrow evening to share information in a very similar fashion that we're doing here regarding secondary RLCP programs. Of course, being part of this session tonight with the We Rise Together Parent Advisory Committee, all our feeder schools. We've released print and broadcast and online media regarding RLCP, and we are still working on placement of road signs in Mississauga, Brampton, and Caledon. We've discovered some of the nuances in city bylaws and everything that way, so we're still continuing and working on that. Just making sure, it's just bounced around a bit on me, my apologies. So the brief overview of what RLCP or Regional Learning Choices programs are. These specialized programs look after student interest, and they empower students by giving them opportunities to explore skills in a particular area of interest, such as the arts, Mayfield and Copper Park, vocal, drama, classic visual arts as well, and music, business, technology, sports, skilled trades, and leadership. All valuable competencies for 21st century education, but a real focus on student interest in the RLCP programs. We do have 11 different secondary regional learning choices programs. They are spread in Brampton, some Caledon and Mississauga. These are available for students beginning in grade 9 in the year 2022-23. So if your student is a grade 8 student, this is perfect that they're in the session, that you're in this session to pass along the information. But also if you're a grade 6 or grade 7 parent, even better, because you have time to plan and resource and research this particular programs that you would be interested in possibly attending. What I'd like to do at this point is share a video by a young lady, a current student at North Park Secondary School, Lydia Tawardros. She's in the IBT, the International Business Technology Program. After she graduated, is planning to pursue a marketing or a PR degree. In the future, she would love to attend the Schulich School of Business in New York, and she would especially like to work on the business side of things for the entertainment or music industry. I am just unplugging my headset so I know that the sound will work for everybody, and I'm going to play her video now for you.
Hi, my name is Lydia Tedros. I'm a grade 11 student, IBT student at North Park Secondary School. And I selected the IBT program because I've always had an interest in technology, and I always was interested in like media and the entertainment industry. And I thought that business would be a great way for me to kind of put my foot in through the door in that space. So that's why I chose the IBT program at North Park Secondary School. I feel like teachers at North Park were always able to support the IBT students by inputting like technological factors into our normal coursework, or if you had a creative endeavor that you wanted to pursue that included like your coursework, they would totally be open to like you being able to do that and put it into your project, which I totally appreciate because I like adding my own ideas to things. And I feel like having that creative ability and that good like support behind you is a great thing. To students who are interested in the program, I would say join. Like, it is a really fun program and you meet a lot of cool people. And as a grade 11 student, because of COVID, we got to miss a lot of things because our grade 9 year was cut halfway, and then our grade 10 year was totally taken away because of COVID, which is all insane. But to the kids that are coming in or planning to come in, those things will be available to them. The things that we didn't get to do, like field trips and talking to people who are in the business and technology world, all those things weren't available to us, but it could totally be available to the interest. Also, as one of the very few Black students, I would encourage Black students to join this program, because although it may seem like something you might not be interested in, it's always great to like try and adventure and such, because until you're in grade 10, you still have time to switch programs. And I think that trying to encourage Black people and Indigenous people to join these spaces where a lot of us aren't really invited or encouraged to join would be a great thing. I am the only Black woman in my whole year of IBT. And I feel like I have always wanted somebody who looks like me to be in my program, because it's like, oh, that person is like me. They kind of understand what we go through in this industry and this school system. And I think that even though we do face these adversities, breaking barriers and becoming the first to do this or the first to do that, or even just joining a group of people who enjoy the same thing and that look like you is an amazing thing. If I could describe IBT in one word or like a short phrase, I would say it's about development. Like, I wasn't as interested in the business world as I am now. Like, it helps you develop things that you didn't know that you were good at, or develops things that you already were good at. If you enjoyed coding, or if you enjoyed working with computers or building robots or something, there are courses and whole robotics teams at the school that encourage IBT students to join and to develop skills that they might have not developed yet. I didn't know anything about the business world when I first joined IBT, but now I compete at DECA in competitions like it, where we go on a large scale and compete in business competitions with people around the world. And it's an incredible experience, because it's like, wow, like, it helps you find out what you want to do in the future, because it gives you so much freedom and so many options, you know? With a lot of other programs, they kind of don't offer that. But with IBT, it's like there are so many different pathways that you can take it and use it for, you know? As a Black student in the IBT program, I wouldn't say that it's difficult to navigate the program, but I would say that it's definitely a different experience if you were surrounded by a lot of Black students before, because you kind of don't have that same support or that feeling of welcome, I guess, that you did have before. Because although there are supports in the school, we have a Black Diamonds Club that's all about supporting the Black voices in our school. There's nothing really that is about the students in IBT, and that's because there honestly, for a long time, were not many. There weren't many Black students. As I said, I'm the only Black student in my year. There's another one that I know in grade 12, but now I know a lot of grade 10s and 9s. There's a lot of Black students there, which I am totally fond of, because it is great to see more Black faces around the building, especially interested in this program and that are pursuing these fields where we really aren't being welcomed. But it is hard to be the only one in the room, you know, because a lot of people assume things about you, and a lot of people think that you don't know what you're talking about when you do. And we need more people, more students, more Black students who have this interest in STEM or this interest in business that they weren't able to push out and use into the world before. We need them to join this program, because we need you guys to make this world more diverse, and also so you can pursue things that you love, that you enjoy doing, or things that you want to learn to love, you know?
So one thing that should be clear as you're viewing that video, I gave some questions just to help frame the start of the dialogue that Lydia shared with us. It is rough, it's uncut. It is her impression of her experience to date. I think some of the progression that we've been already starting to make with some of the efforts about removing barriers, getting more students involved, raising awareness is demonstrated by Lydia being able to see more students coming into the program. She highlights some of the great things about it that her experiences taught her, as well as the benefits for other students. She's speaking particularly about the IBT program at North Park. This is the same for all of our IBT programs. It's more about all our programs as well. So she did a fantastic job for us sharing that. So thank you very much, Lydia, and I'm going to be thanking her for her time in preparing that as well. Well, what I would like to do, is she's talked about the IBT program, is to give you a bit of a tour of what the RLCP website looks like and the information that's available. I work for the board. I very quickly came to recognize the easiest way for me to get to our website is by searching for it in Google. I've double checked and I've triple checked. If you type in PDSB, RLCP across different browsers, across different search engines, the secondary RLCP program is the first one that will show up. So it's the easiest way to get to the website. And of course, I also have a shorter link down below that you can access to type in if you want. As you get to the website, you will notice down the page, there's descriptions that we have. So you get a basic idea of what the IBT program is, the IB program, the Regional Sport and Leadership program, the Graphic Design program at TL Kennedy. We have them all listed so you can get some basic building blocks to develop and flesh out where there could be a potential interest for your student, or if your student, of course, your own personal interest at the same time. So those are key in just developing a basic idea of what we have there. Also included on our website are the spotlight videos that have been shown to grade 8s. So maybe your student was away that day, they didn't mention to you about the spotlight videos. You can go through and find either the videos or the presentations that were used, and you can show them to your student as well at the same time. So they're another good resource that can be found on the RLCP webpage to just help build your understanding about what these programs look like. And each school will have, even if it's advanced placement programs offered at Central Peel and John Fraser, there's a slightly different twist at each site. So it's really good to look at what those programs are. Also on our RLCP website are the actual parent information night videos for each of the schools that have already gone. We're just going to be in the process of uploading all of the IB information nights shortly. These are simply the recordings of the live event that schools ran, just like I'm running this evening and I'm going to be posting. So they're really good to take a look at. They usually run about an hour in length. I sometimes get impatient watching videos. I might speed it up to 1.5 speed or whatever else, but it's accessible information for you when you want it, where you want it, and for how long. So you can go through and really get to know what that program looks at that particular school. One thing as you're watching the videos, and I will take you to the website just to make sure that you can see what it looks like as well. The best source of information, I can be a pretty good resource for you if you reach out to me, but definitely the old school calling, reaching out by an email, definitely will be the best situation if you have some questions about what the program looks like at that particular location. So do not hesitate to reach out to each individual school if you have a question. Staff on board, whether it's the office staff or the admin or the program teachers as well, could come up and really help out flesh out your understanding. So what I'm going to do just very quickly here is I'm going to open up another tab and Google search RLCP, and like I mentioned, it is the first link that comes up. I even used a VPN to make sure it's not cookies or everything like that. So even if you've never done this before, it should be the top link that comes up for you. And this is the Secondary Regional Learning Choice Program website. If all else fails and you can't get there, when you do come to the main website, if you go to Secondary and Programs in the drop-down menu, and you click there and you scroll right here, you can also get to Secondary Regional Learning Choices programs here. Just takes you back to our website right here. We'll talk about application deadlines shortly. All our important dates for the upcoming process are available here as well. Here's where we've hosted and posted the information about tonight's session, the session that we're going to be giving to the virtual Indigenous Family Information Circle is provided, and the detailed information for you about each program, what's happening for advanced placement at Central Peel. It's right here. You can watch the on-demand info night, and you can also watch the spotlight video that's available. And they're being updated constantly with information for you at the same time. So this is available for all of our programs. As I mentioned, we will be uploading the information night for IB shortly. So that's all available on this table. The program descriptions that I was mentioning earlier are available here. If you're looking for information on what the sports leadership program looks like, it's an example right here, so you can see the expanded information as it drops down that way. More information, I'll provide this later, on the self-identification process, application, our random selection, and there was a question, I think, that'll be addressed with talking about what random selection is, but how it's handled through self-identification. Other important details that we'll cover are also here. So even if I'm going too fast for you, the information will be shared here from the presentation, and it's here text-based as well, the fees, the busing, everything that way. And we do have a very good frequently asked questions section for you for further information at the same time. So that's just a very quick tour of our regional program website for you. There we go. I mentioned as well on the website the great FAQ database, sections there on the self-identification process, the general applications, how offers are handled and the timelines that occur, what wait lists look like. It's all included there that you can share with other people at the same time. Our acceptance process and fees for each program are also included there. A lot of information we'll go through in this presentation for you at the same time. We are opening our applications on November the 15th of this coming month at 8:30 in the morning. That application window will be open until November the 29th at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So it's very fixed time schedule. You get from the 15th of November at 8:30 in the morning through to 3 p.m. on November the 29th for you as well. So those are the two key dates as far as let's go in, take a look at the application, what's being needed, what's being asked. I'll go through and review that information with you at the same time today as well. Beyond the application dates, this information is available on the website. It is a staggered offerings in the International Baccalaureate program because of the commitment to an outside organization and the standards and timelines that they have set. And when we have to submit information to the IB organization, they do, the IB offers come out first. So the whole process for IB does occur before the other offers for our programs. And then the other programs pick up with first round offers in conjunction with, I should mention, Explore High Skills Major, another program that we have available for grades 9 and 10. That's also happening at the same time. So those key dates are there for you to consult and look at. The offers go out at the end of January. We go through first round and second round offers and then wait list to get into a program. So all the dates are there and accessible. One thing to mention, this is key. It is on our website before we get into the actual programs. Before you apply to a program, make sure your geographic area allows you to apply to that program. So do use, I used to call it the school locator, but determine the program boundaries to make sure that you are applying to the right program at the right school. One thing when it comes to the street name city, make sure you're being as specific as possible and that you select the right street. We have had some miscues where it was just, oh, I clicked the one underneath by mistake and it wasn't caught. And sometimes it can mess with what school you apply to. Just take your time, figure out what program is available, and you can use that to decide on what to apply for. There are several programs where they're not offered in multiple locations. IB, AP, SciTech, IBT all have multiple locations. The Graphic and Design Management program that runs out of T.L. Kennedy Secondary School, the International and Executive Leadership Academy that also runs out of T.L. Kennedy Secondary School, the Regional Sports and Leadership program at Applewood Heights, and the Transportation, Engineering and Technology program at Bramalea Secondary School. They are one-of-a-kind programs. They do not operate anywhere else. So anyone from the board can apply to go to these programs, regardless of where you live in Peel, Caledon, Brampton, or Mississauga. They are accessible to all Peel board students. The application process is fairly detailed. It's not live yet. As I mentioned here, it will be going live on November the 15th. There will be a button that gets placed right at the top of our RLCP application page website. That'll open up another window, and you can go through and start completing the application. For your information, if you look at the image on the left, this is just the login screen. If you have applied before, or you've got another student that you have applied for, you may already have an account. So you'll have your email and password already. If that pre-exists, great. If not, you create an account, you click on the button, just make sure you remember your password, common sense. And the password is case sensitive as well. So those are some of the issues that do come up when we require password help. We do have the much used, and I use it often at times, the forgotten password for reset and password reminders and everything like that. So that's your opening screen. You'll notice it does say Regional Learning Choices Program, so you know you're on the right application. The first section that comes up is completing the parent and guardian information. You only have to complete it for one parent. If it's a decision to have another guardian or another parent mentioned, you can include that basic information as well. You go all the way through. If you are already an RLCP student in middle school, you still have to apply again for secondary school. That's a key point. I think I mentioned it later on as well. So you would already have the student entered. So if you need to add a new student, you can do that at the bottom of the page if it's a younger sibling or anything like that. So that information does pop up as you scroll down the page. There is a section to enter then for student information. The details are all recorded and listed. There. You do require the Peel student number. That is the Well, it is for the most part a 6-digit number. I know this school year Peel's had so many students currently, and in the past we've moved to 7 digits. So it is a student number you'd be able to find on a student report card or progress report. So that's what you would require there to enter and to continue on. And then this is the screen where you have to use the school locator to determine which program to apply to. A general kind of guideline would sometimes be is the 401 as a divider, for instance, between programs that exist in the north and the south, like Cawthra Park or Mayfield for the regional arts program or RAP program. So do make sure that you do take the time to use the school locator to determine which location you apply to before you go through this process. You click on that individual school, and there are supplementary questions or responses or student responses that are required. They aren't very large. For instance, the example of the one that I'm sharing here on the screen right now would be a maximum word count of 250 words. But do make sure they get done. Schools review these. It becomes part of threshold criteria that is used to determine if students meet that basic requirement. The good thing that comes around this, if you notice on the live option, there's a save button. Essentially, you can submit, you can go back, you can change, you can update your answers until the applications close on the 29th. So it's not a one-shot deal. You can go in, take a look, save what you've done, come back out, go back in. It doesn't all have to be done all at once. So if you are considering, you can start your applications, go and look at what options are available, what they're asking. The student can do their homework, work on that typical first, second, third draft, review, and then you can copy and paste that in. So do take the time to prep and ensure that all of the questions are the student responses that are required, and they do differ from different programs that they are completed. We do have some instances where they've been left blank. So you want to make sure that in the application process, all of the student response options are recorded. One question that often comes back is looking at middle school grade 7 and grade 8 marks. One thing that we want to make clear is during COVID, over these last couple years, what we've started doing is only looking at the students' top 5 marks. Those are the only marks that are considered during the application process for RLCP. We're not even saying it has to be subject A, B, C, D, and E. It is whatever the top 5 marks are. The same thing, we work with learning skills. We look at the top 5 of 6 learning skills at the same time. The main reason that we've done this is to look with a focus on student strengths. Everyone has their strength, and we're allowing students to shine with what their individual or personal strength is by selecting whatever the top 5 marks are for each student. Sometimes we're going to run into technical issues. It happens more than we know it. Do take the time when you're doing the applications to allow for maybe the potential for tech issues. The Peel District School Board Help Desk does have an extension 7365 that's available for parents to use when they're having problems or issues with the RLCP applications. Now, we say in the bullet point slide here, please don't wait until the deadline to submit your application. Sometimes there is, or every time I've been aware, there's a flood of applications on that last day. If there are technical issues that are occurring and happening, the help desk will be overwhelmed and might not get to your application in time. So be prepared. Do your visits to the application as soon as you possibly can. Take a look at everything that's available, click submit. If there's any issues, then the help desk can become involved, they can get rectified, and the application can be submitted properly for you. So please do not wait until the very, very last moment to click submit. That way we can ensure that you do have the help that's necessary. A couple of questions I've noticed, and I will during the Q&A session that we time frame that we have, look at them more in depthly. There's a couple of questions about fees and everything, so the next slides will help address that. All secondary, for the most part, regional programs include a non-refundable application fee and an annual program fee, and I'll differentiate between the two. RLCP application fees range from for instance, at Bramley's program, they do not charge for an application fee. Others charge $40, and the specific cost would be indicated on the actual application form for that particular program. For any help or assistance that's required with the application fee, the process is for parents and guardians to contact the student's current school principal. You have that relationship with that principal. That principal would then work with the school that you're applying to request that application fee be waived. So that is an option that's available for parents, guardians, students. Non-Peel board students, if you're happen to be on this call tonight, if you're having a concern or require any financial assistance with the application fee, you reach out to me, the RLCP principal, Greg Pearson. I will make sure in the chat I post my email later so that you can reach out for any fee assistance with the applications. So that covers our application fees. The program fees, for the most part, are $200 per year. So you have to do $200 in grade 9, 10, 11, and 12. There are 4 exceptions that come with that. The advanced placement programs that operate at John Fraser and Central Peel, they charge $250 every year for the 4 years. The IB program fee at the 4 sites, Glen Forest, Arundel, Turner Fenton, and Harold and Brathwaite. They charge $250 for grades 9 and 10, and you'll notice down below it alters for grades 11 and 12 for IB. The regional skilled trades programs at Judith Nyman and West Credit Secondary School are offered at no cost, so there is no program fee for those 2 programs. And I mentioned the Transportation, Engineering, and Technology program at Bramley Secondary School does not charge a $40 application fee, and they also do not charge the program fee. So there is no charge whatsoever for that program at Bramley. 2 very important notes that we always want parents to be aware of. When it comes to grade 12 and the advanced placement exams as part of the AP program, there is an exam writing fee for each exam that the student decides or elects to write. That examination fee does vary, and we don't know exactly what it's going to be come the time when your student's in grade 12, but it's about $150-ish per exam. So depending on how many a student decides or elects to write, that charge would have to be covered at that time during grade 12. For the IB program in the 4 schools I've already mentioned, the IB programs do increase, the fees I should say increase for grades 11 and 12. The fees for grades 11 and 12, because of the IB exam writing fees, they do jump to $1,350 for each year. Grade 11, $1,350, grade 12, $1,350. So I want you to be aware of that change. Much like the application, those charges, much like the application fee, there are avenues that we can proceed for assistance with program fees. We ask that you contact the school principal at the RLCP site or the RLCP school after you've been accepted into the program. That is after you've been accepted. You do not have to do it before. Once you're accepted, you can reach out. They'll work within their budget, working with their superintendent, what we can do to help support students with program fee assistance as well. So I do believe that the previous slide on application fees and this slide discussing on program fees would have satisfied several of the questions that were in our question and answer section. One other thing, it's not a fee, but it is a cost. Transportation is not provided for students in regional programs. There is no school provided transportation. If students have been accepted into a regional program and they live within the actual school boundary, then they can be eligible for busing if they meet the distance criteria outlined in Policy 39 transportation. Very quickly, I was the principal at Applewood Heights. The regional sports program is there. We would have lots of students that would naturally be in our catchment area already and would be coming to Applewood as their home school, and they would want to be in the RSP program. If they got into RSP and they lived outside of the boundary limit for transportation, then they would qualify for busing. So those would be the only student situations that would get, at this point, transportation provided by the school board. As in our RLCP school-based principal, there are a couple options that are available to parents. One is the parent-funded, privately arranged busing. That does come at a cost for parents. In my collection of information to try to determine an approximate cost, I would determine or be able to suggest it could be about $2,300 for the school year. And that's again just done with a private bus company. It has nothing to do with Peel District School Board or the school. I have, as well as a school-based RLCP principal, assisted in helping to set up some potential carpooling or ride sharing as well. Some of the students do it very quickly on their own and figure out who knows who and what happens that way, and they can ride share, so that does take some of the weight off of parents and guardians. The other option is city transit. My Way or Brampton Transit does work. In actuality, I used to have some students that would be from Brampton. They would have attended the AIM program at Royal Orchard, physically fit kind of mindset. They wanted to be part of the same program at Applewood Heights, so they would come down on public transit from Brampton. Yeah, it was over an hour ride some days, but the students said, but sir, I do my homework in the morning and on the way home at night, and then I don't have as much to do. So they kind of use the silver lining or that time to do work. So it's an option there. So those are 3 other options. The 4th option that parents do resort to is simply driving their students to school. So that does happen as well. So there's are the current options for parents and transportation, but again, busing for RLCP for the most part is not provided to, as part of the program. The self-identification process, and there were some comments about, is it a lottery or what happens? Shirley Ann very eloquently stated our commitment as far as the RLCP. My apologies. The RLCP program and removing traditional barriers that have been in place for students who identify as African, Black, and Afro-Caribbean, First Nations, Inuit, and Métis students. Last school year, the process was put in place where students who met the threshold or the criteria for acceptance into each program, who self-identified through the application process, did not have to join into the random selection process. So what that means is students who meet all the thresholds and grades and the learning skills and the student responses, or if some schools do have it, the participation component, for instance, the art programs do have performance-based elements to them. Once you've met that threshold, students who self-identified did not and do not have to participate in the random selection process. They will automatically be provided a seat in the program. So students who have self-identified with the Peel District School Board will then be admitted into the program without having to go through the random selection process. One note, I've mentioned it already, students who are already in an elementary regional learning choice program, realistically, actually wouldn't necessarily down the road it will apply, but if they had self-identified into the program for the elementary side, they still have to self-identify again when they come into applying for secondary RLCP programs. It's just the way our random selection process works. In order to guarantee we don't miss anybody, we're asking that it does happen again. And one other note, students always have to reapply in the first place because even if you're already in, let's say, the Sci-Tech program at Tompkin and you would like to go to the Sci-Tech program at Port Credit Secondary School, you still have to apply. Being part of the elementary program does not guarantee acceptance into the secondary program. You still have to meet the thresholds. If you're a self-identifying student, you're automatically placed. If you're not a self-identifying student or decide not to self-identify, then you would have to go through the random selection process again. So just to make that point as well. I've been talking for a while. I thought this would be another excellent opportunity to hear from another student. This young man, Jordan Fletcher, was a student at Harold M. Brathwaite Secondary School in the International Baccalaureate program. He is currently at York University in third year and he's studying electrical engineering. His video is a little bit longer, some very powerful thoughts that he has about getting into the program, why there were not more students, and he can see some really good opportunities for students. I'm just going to unplug my headset to make sure that the sound works, and please enjoy Jordan. Similar fashion, I provided the framework of questions, and I will mention, I basically gave 4 brief kind of questions. Tell me a bit about yourself, your background, academic, where you are now, that type of idea. Number 2 is how do your teachers help support you in your program? The third question was what advice would you give to other students coming into the RLCP program? And the fourth question I provided was give one word or phrase that describes the program for you. So those were just to generate topics of conversation. And my last bullet point that I provided to all students was I'm not limiting what you want to say to the bullet points I provided. If there's anything else that you want to say or share with other potential students, please do so. As you can tell, these videos, I only made them look nice and put them inside a little iPad. These are unedited. These are students speaking regarding their actual experience in RLCP programs. So here is Jordan Fletcher.
Hello, my name is Jordan Fletcher. I'm a student at York University, and I'm currently pursuing a bachelor's of engineering in hopes to one day be an electrical engineer. I just want to go ahead and preemptively thank Mr. Pearson for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today and share my experiences in the International Baccalaureate program at Harold Brathwaite Secondary School. So I graduated from the IB program in the year 2019, and time has flown ever since. Just a little bit about the time that I spent there. A question was raised about how teachers were able to aid me while I was there. And what I found was that, teachers that took time to dig into the information, and teachers who had a passion for learning, as well as a passion for the subject that they were teaching, it definitely rubbed off on their students. And I was a product of that. I can speak to especially my chemistry teacher, my physics teacher, who were always butting heads. They thought that one thought chemistry was the better science, and the other thought physics was the better science, but their passion was shown so greatly. And when I came to class each and every day, I just saw that in the way that they taught, and it rubbed off on me. Not only that, I'm a student lead. I also love to take part in extracurricular activities. I was on student government. I was on the volleyball team. I was on the basketball team. I was in the Black Excellence Club. There was just a lot going on for me, and some days I would have to step out of class for a couple minutes. But my teachers were always on my case, making sure that I was meeting deadlines. I can remember back to a time when my chemistry teacher called me when I got home and made sure that I submitted an assignment that was due. Teachers that pursue students like that to deepen learning, they are the difference between the limits that a student can have. And so I really appreciate the teachers and my faculty at Harold Brathwaite for pursuing me and my knowledge and my education the way that they did. That had a great effect on it. Another question Mr. Pearson had was, how would I encourage students who are looking to apply for the International Baccalaureate program? Well, the International Baccalaureate program really challenges students to change the way that they think about certain topics, to change the way that they view about the world. And it just challenges students educationally. It also challenges students to be balanced in their communities, with their activities. I can think of one program that would track your physical activity, your community activity, and your service to others in the community as well. And those are trackable and also required for graduation from the program. And wow, one of the things that we had to do was to create our own projects on how we would help our community, and just something that took me around but surely increased my skills with communicating with people in the community and speaking to people to build together, right? And I really appreciate it. Before I didn't appreciate it so much. I was like, why do we have to do this? But now I truly see the value in it, and it's just a product of who I am today. I oftentimes are in the school community doing things that I probably would not have done had the program not challenged me to do those things and find those things in myself early on in high school. So my encouragement to students is to not limit yourselves. Send out the application to the IB program, certainly. It challenges you to dig deeper educationally, to dig deeper within yourself as well. And there's close to nothing to lose whatsoever. You only have to gain. So definitely do not limit yourself. Go and send that application. I can say that that program was what I needed in high school to kind of jumpstart secondary schooling. And so it definitely will be a big help to you if you have been with a team. And it will help you in other walks of life as well. Mr. Pearson also asked me to go ahead and describe the whole experience with that program with one phrase. Very difficult to do so, but when I chose the phrase adaptation to challenges, I found myself constantly having to adapt the way that I think, the way that I live, the way that I interact with peers constantly. It was difficult at first, but the knowledge now, the growth is priceless to me. This one thing I can speak on personally was the experience of the IB program. I was a visible. I was one of 2 students who was in my year, who was a black student. And for a while, I thought maybe black students have a good time making it to programs such as these. Absolutely, the change when I was thinking it wasn't true. Was that black students didn't get that extra nudge by teachers in middle school to enter this program. Black students, one was reaching out to them to let them know that opportunities like this exist. And so the result was, opportunities were a part of the solution now. And I believe that black students have equal opportunity as much as any other students that I was with in the program to be in the program and be successful. And so I strongly encourage black students to get around this adversity and adapt and really take advantage of what the program has to. But that's it for me now. Mr. Pearson, thank you again for giving me the opportunity to speak on experiences I hope this helped you, my fellow black students, please continue to dig deeper. Even if you're not in the IB program, choose not to do so. Please continue to desire learning. That you're taking the right steps. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jordan. As an educator, he stated exactly what the situation was like. As we continue to act, do the right thing, implement the directions and the directives from the Ministry of Education, we are making an impact. That is key. We can see the differences. We are working and focusing, as Jordan mentioned, not having the information, not being told about programs, and we're working on that communication as we go throughout. The true power of the RLCP programs, whether it be IB or any of the other programs that we have, really bring out the potential best in students. I am noticing that there was some glitching, as my own kids would say. The video's glitching, Dad. That video was somewhat glitching between myself and our crack communications team. Brittany will hopefully help me get it posted as soon as we possibly can for you. If it was glitching, you can listen to the whole thing, share it with your student. Between our first video and definitely our second video, it's started something that's very valuable, is that listening to student voice. It's good for us as educators to know what we can do to change when we listen to our students, but it's also good as a role model and example for the 2 students that we had listening today as well. That is the last of the videos that I have to share at this point in time. I think as we were prepping and getting ready for this and including student voice, it's really an example where we can start having the library of these videos as far as RLCP, where it's just students speaking from their heart. That's definitely what our 2 students did this evening. So again, we will also have this video posted for you as well. I have been answering some of your questions throughout the presentation. this is, as we're about 18 minutes left in our scheduled time, an opportunity for any other questions that you can put into the chat that we have. And I'm going to go through and start answering some of the questions that I haven't already, or readdress them to make sure that information was shared. Let's say perhaps there's a question you didn't think of or that you didn't ask, or there's something that you come up afterwards, a couple days after the event. You go, I wish I would have asked this, or I need to know more information about this. I will, as I'm talking and answering questions, also share the link, that I have below, and I'm just going to make a copy of this right now so I can paste it nicely into and make an announcement for you so that you have this and you can ask questions. I just asked for first name, last name, and an email address so I can respond to it for you. And I just wanted to do that in a form so I don't miss any questions, because these are important. I want you to get the right answers as quickly as I can so it doesn't get messed an emission in a very full inbox. So I want to make sure that it is an option that I get to around to answering every question. I'm just going to paste that link right now for you. If you forgot or you want to ask a different question later on or anything like that, to ask a question. So that's an option for you as well. I'm just going up to our questions right now as I go through and look at a couple of the published questions. I did cover which programs include fees. Does the application for arts programs as well? Yes, there is boundaries for the Cawthra Park and the Mayfield program. The rough dividing line would be the 401, but please use the school locator to make sure that you are in the right location for the school that you're applying. Another question in our chat was, what are the type 5 marks for the regional program? The top 5 marks that we're looking at are the students' top 5 marks. Just to be clear, we are not setting it has to be math, English, science, this, that, and the other. It is just whatever the student's top 5 marks are. Okay. There's a question about getting accepted into a program and mid-year you move to a different region. If you move to a different region outside of the Peel District School Board, a lot of these programs are only Peel Board creations. IBT, SciTech, the regional sports program, there aren't necessarily equivalents in other school boards. The IB program and the AP program would have potential to be accepted or picked up depending on spots and availability in whatever school board or region that you move to. If you're talking about moving from one school's catchment area to another, we do have options to work through with vacancies and seats wherever we can. If you're in the AP program at John Fraser and you move to Brampton, then we will work to ensure that we can make every effort possible to get the student, if seats are available, into the Central Peel program. So we do have some of that flexibility within our school district, but again, I've already mentioned some of the issues if you're going on to different school boards across the province. I have a question about the eligibility criteria. So we use grade 7 final report cards and grade 8 midterm report cards for determining those grades. Term report cards. High school background and bias, my apologies. But we do use the grade 7 and the current grade 8 classes as well. So that's what we're using. As far as the criteria, when we're dealing with what we refer to as the threshold or the score that has to happen, is we look at the learning skills, the student mark, and the student responses, and schools that do have a participation component, and that will be mentioned by the schools what that is. That is scored and weighted accordingly, and we do have some flexibility when that's being decided. What we do ensure is if you're applying for regional arts, it's the same thresholds between Mayfield and Cawthra. They don't get treated any differently. That works for all our multiple site programs. The schools meet, they come up what their threshold is going to be. For the first time this year, they are going to be sharing their suggested thresholds with myself, our superintendent, potentially associate director, and then we will be providing feedback on that threshold and that eligibility criteria, and then establishing what it is for the coming year. So thank you very much for that question. This is a question that gets asked every year about busing support and being subsidized. Associate Director Shirley Ann Teal, who was on earlier, knows that I advocate wherever we possibly can. Schools work wherever we possibly can to provide or come up with some creative solutions to transportation issues when it comes to regional learning choices programs. The board is aware of some of those struggles, is looking at and considering whatever options that would be feasible in order for us to provide some of that support. It is a very complex and difficult task, but it is something that gets considered and looked at, and wherever we possibly can, we attempt to assist. Definitely, if you're in a situation like that, it always go to the school principal, share your information, what's happening. I know as a school-based principal, we would often come up with very creative solutions, help wherever we possibly could. Your school connections with your teachers, the guidance counselors, and the administration at that school will be key in also helping with that at the same time. Reporting timelines. If one of my colleagues, anyone's on the call right now, what are the middle school, elementary reporting timelines? I do have a question about that. I know they're on our board website. I don't have it off the top of my head. And we do have a question about self-identification and how do you actually do that? As you're doing the application and you're submitting that information, there's a drop-down menu that does pop up, and it does appear, and it is currently a drop-down menu that you say, I'm self-identifying, and then you would go through to the drop-down menu and you would self-identify in the application as African, Black, First Nation, Inuit, or Métis. That information essentially goes into the database. All it shows us on our end in our computer system when we're looking at the application, so we know that we don't miss any student who's self-identified. It only signifies this student has self-identified. And then at that case, we work through the thresholds and make sure if they've met that threshold, they are offered a placement in that program. We are not investigating or determining what the self-identification process are. We're not asking for any supporting evidence. We have every faith and trust in our community and students in what they are doing and what they are able to identify as. So we're not asking for follow-up documentations or anything like that. Another question as we come down, switching from one program to the other is not possible. Many of our programs at this point in time are only one entry date, and that is a grade 9 entry date for secondary school. So if you go into Sci-Tech, you have to either stay in Sci-Tech or come out of Sci-Tech and go into your neighborhood school if you want out of that program. So you can't jump between our LCP programs. You can only join into that program that you are in. There's a question, any live demonstrations on how to apply to an RCLP? If you have a need for any assistance, we do have some assistance provided. I am working on, there are some tweaks to the application system that are a little different. I'm looking at potential of doing a screen capture video that would be available on our website. If you would like some assistance or a tour in the test database, it's a lot of fields to complete and everything to get, sorry, excuse me, to get through. 1 second, please. Sorry about that, I've been talking a lot, so my throat's getting quite dry. Use that ask a question form that I did provide. The link is on the screen currently as well. And give me your name and your contact, and I will reach out to you and either arrange something with myself or direct you to some of the documentation that we have, and you can tell me if that helps or not. So I would be glad to help out with that as well. I'm just going to quickly go through the questions here. A lot of them I've addressed as we were going through the presentation. Can we clarify additions application process for the art school? There is the threshold that has to be met, so there would be a performance-based participation component that you would set up at the school. Depending on the current situation, there could be in-person tests this year, all COVID protocols being followed. Screening coming into the school, one student at a time, no parents permitted, but that would be an in-person potential. And there's also going to be some virtual art participation components as well. You do still have to do those as part of a self-identification process, because the student does have to meet the threshold, the criteria for the program. When you self-identify, it just means you are not partaking or do not have to partake in the random selection process. That's another question about switching to grade 10. Transferring boards. Deaf from Peel does offer IB and AP as well, so if you're going to switch between boards, I'm just getting a note that my form's not working. I will go and check that when I'm done with the meeting today to make sure it is working for you, so please just save that URL and I'll make sure it's functioning properly for you. Thank you very much. That is the majority of the questions that I've been able to answer this evening. I will double check the form to make sure it's working if you happen to come up with other questions. I do have a question about an RLCP certificate. It's not like a SHISM with a red seal. Each individual school does produce a certificate, a mentioning on the diploma, but it is handled by each individual school. So that would address and assist with that question as well at the same time. I will now pass the mic over and give my throat a little bit of a break from talking for some closing remarks from, once again, our parent representative from the We Rise Together Community Advisory Council, Danielle Dowdy. Danielle, just give me 1 second. I'm going to send your camera live again. There you go, Danielle. You're muted. All good. I can hear you now.
You can hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, it's showing that I'm muted.
Okay, it's a glitch in the tech system at this point, but no, I can hear you. And I know the chat function would be going crazy if people couldn't hear you as you start to talk. So feel free, please, for your closing remarks. Okay,
thank you so much. Thank you for your presentation, Greg. That was very informative. And again, thank you to all the parents who joined in this evening. Hopefully it was helpful. You'll see the different links in the chat if you want more information about We Rise, or more specifically, though, information about the program and how to apply and where all the programs are in which schools. And we just wish you all the best with your application. Please share this with other parents that you know, and let's get the numbers up so we can increase the representation for our Black students. Thank you, and have a great night.
Thank you very much, Danielle.
Thank you.
As Danielle was mentioning about links, and just before I end our presentation for this evening, go back one, to get on the We Rise distribution list. I know I shared this earlier. Even if it doesn't show up, I'll make sure that we put this link on our website so you can access it later. It's a bit.ly/PDSBWRT for joining into the We Rise distribution list. And of course, the We Rise website. Their email and everything is available there to reach out and to contact. And please, if you have any further questions, I'll make sure that link is working. And I will also get it posted on our website for follow-up questions from our presentation this evening. Parents, guardians, students that were in the call this evening, thank you very much for carving out the time to find out about our RLCP programs that we have with Peel District School Board. And as I mentioned earlier, we are here if you have any further questions or would require any more information. If you're asking about program specific or school specific information, do reach out to those schools that you're inquiring about. They're the experts about what happens in their buildings, and they can really give you some keen insight regarding that. The information night videos that we have posted, they're running, as I mentioned, about an hour in length, are also a tremendous access for you as far as information about each particular program. I'm just checking any last minute questions or anything that have popped up before I end the meeting. That I think we're all clear. Good evening, everyone. Take care, be safe, and if you have any questions, I will be reaching out and responding to them as soon as I can. Thank you very much.